Lila Downs, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I should say you're here in Toronto as part of the Luminato Festival.
Yes.
What does it mean for you to be part of this celebration tonight?
Well, I think that I'm grateful because I'm living in a time that women in Indigenous communities are kind of suddenly noticed. I think that I came into this realization in my own life. I live part of my life in Oaxaca in Mexico on the southern Pacific coast of Mexico, and the Indigenous communities there are tortilla-making people, and they are amazing women who bring sustenance to our lives. And so I think I was taught to notice this by my mother, another tough woman, but now to be included in something that includes a Pan-American kind of a celebration of life and of music, it's an honor.
You mentioned your mom was a tough woman. What was she like?
She was a really natural anthropologist. She would say to me, "Lila, did you notice those people standing there? Did you see what they're doing?" I'd be like, "No." I have no idea what people are doing. And she made me stop and notice my surroundings and look at those people sometimes who we see as invisible, I think, or we don't see.
Yeah.
Right?
And you still feel her presence, I'm sure. You still feel
I
that.
do.
Yeah.
It was a very strong, she was very into discipline as well, which I'm grateful for, because as a singer, you need to have a lot of discipline, and I'm grateful for that as well.
And she's still with us.
She is.
How's she doing?
She's great. She's going to turn 80 this year.
My God. Well, tell her hello for us.
I will.
There's a. I mean, this is not something that I feel comfortable necessarily saying to someone like me, but there's a great discussion happening in Canada right now that we may be starting to turn a page when it comes to Indigenous female representation in Canada. And you have artists like Tanya Tagaq winning the Polaris Music Prize. You have artists like the Jerry Kens and Iskway making waves and getting airplay, and we're coming on this show, and we're getting letters and we're getting mail saying how much they love hearing them. I'm wondering, in your experience, what are you seeing where you live, where you are? What kind of reception are you seeing to female Indigenous people in the United States and Mexico?
Well, I think in the U.S. it's a big discussion, because actually it isn't even a discussion. There's a lot of ignorance about our native root, and I think a lot of people don't even realize that Mexicans are Indigenous. So that's, first of all, one of the lessons we need to teach people. And then in Mexico, it's beautiful. I think that, there's been a wave. There was a bit of a revolution since 1994 with an Indigenous movement. And this made youth aware of Indigenous life and survival. And, I think the beauty is to somehow say, okay, we eat tortillas and we have these amazing Indigenous traditions, and let's just look to our left and to our right and realize that we are today living. We are not archaeological pieces. I think in our culture, in Latin American cultures, since we have these amazing temples, the temple to the sun, the temple to the moon, in the Mayan culture, in the Aztec culture, we sometimes tend to think that was the past, and we have nothing that connects us to that past, but we do. And so I think it's a wonderful time, because we're now rejoicing in that, but we have a lot of work ahead of us to teach people about who we are.
Yeah, and it's not a continuation of the past. It's a continuation of life.
Exactly.
It's the continuation of you. It's a continuation of people.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah. You're here.
Yeah.
Over your career, you've sung in, well, you're here too.
Yeah.
You've sung in English and in Spanish, but as well, you sung in a handful of Indigenous languages, Mixtec, Zapotec, Maya cultures. Though I find this really interesting. I read for a while that you weren't interested in singing in any of these languages, that you cut off your hair and you followed Jerry Garcia around. Is that right?
I bleached my hair blonde.
You bleached your hair, yeah. And you followed the Grateful Dead?
I did, but for some reason there must have been some article and thinking that one thing had to do with the other. I used to bleach my hair because I was in denial of myself and my Indian past. And going around and following the Grateful Dead and dropping out of society, in quotes, is what taught me to accept myself.
How so?
Well, I think I needed to live on the streets for a while maybe do a little some drugs and find myself, figure out who I was when I looked at myself in the mirror and love myself. And that, of course, now I can say that, but it was a very painful process, you know, to go through denial and then come back and say, I'm going to love myself the way that I am.
I'm sure it's a joy to sing in some of these languages, in some of these indigenous languages. But does it ever feel like a responsibility?
It always feels like a responsibility, but I don't suffer with that. I find that interesting, right. Amazing.
The word responsibility doesn't necessarily mean to be a bad thing.
But, you know, nowadays it kind of is, you know, to the right-wingers. You know, I guess you're not supposed to be responsible. You're always supposed to be having a good time.
So what does that responsibility feel like for you?
I think that you should find joy in expressing the survival of a culture and cultures that were meant to be abolished in their totality, but are here and surviving, as we said earlier. And this is cause for celebration, of course, but also it's a responsibility to continue in those languages. Like my mother, she writes what's-ups to me in our Indigenous language, and she reminds me of things, you know. So it's about surviving in this globalized world that we live in.
I want to play a little bit of the record that you just put out. I want to play a little bit. It's paired well, by the way, with the Tributaries event at the Luminato Festival in Toronto. It's called Salón Lágrimas y Deseo. I want to play a little bit of the first single. It's called Peligrosa, or Dangerous in English. Let's hear it.
Dicen que yo soy peligrosa, que yo soy dolorosa, porque quiero vivir así. Dicen que yo soy enjundiosa, caprichosa y hermosa, que no puedo seguir así. Te digo que sí soy peligrosa, sí soy desdeñosa, porque te quiero para mí. Sí soy afanosa, intrépida, costosa, que quiero lo bueno.
It's beautiful. So the horns are beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful section.
Really great, tight, beautiful section you have there. Yeah, that's a little taste of Peligrosa, the first single off acclaimed Mexican-American songwriter Lila Downs' new record, Salón Lágrimas y Deseo. Tell me a little bit about where that song came from.
Well, the album itself is about tears and desire. And I think that I have found in my life that I must face the music. And
what do you mean?
And, I guess that when Trump won in December, in November, I was looking forward to maybe, him not winning, and he won, so I was very depressed.
Where were you?
I was in Mexico, and we wrote a song called The Demagogue before that, hoping that a lot of Latin people would not vote for him, but they did. I guess 30% of the vote was Latin.
There was a prediction of that would be much lower.
So that was really surprising. I think when you've devoted your life to bring people together and love each other, to try and love each other more, although hippie-ish as that may sound, I was really disappointed, and I thought, well, I guess I'm just going to forget about this life. So I was very sad and disheartened. I drank, I think, a bottle of mezcal with someone else. I can't remember who it was. And the next morning, I was ready to compose some of these songs for this album. And it's an album about a broken heart. And some of the songs are romantic songs. They're classic boleros, similar to the American standards in their vision of love and broken heart.
Yeah, they're timeless.
They're timeless, exactly. They're universal. And I think that's what I'm singing to. I'm singing to my country, to my two countries, which is the U.S. and Mexico. And I'm singing to them with love as I have always had for both of them, and with a broken heart in many ways to the leaders, I guess, of these countries. And I'm passionate about it, and that's what I did.
I want to talk a little bit more about that chapter in your life. But first, I want to go back a little bit, that you were born in Oaxaca in Mexico, and you grew up there, and in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I mean, the very different places, for sure. That's where your father's from. How does the two places you're from shape who you are as an artist?
Well, I certainly hope I've taken the best from both cultures. And you know what's been happening in the past 15 years, I think I've kind of put my back on the Anglo side in a way, because I kind of lost patience at one point, you know, trying to explain things, and people kind of don't care. So I think that that's why the recent, you know, past, or it's not so recent, 15 years, did albums mostly in Spanish. Now I think I'm coming back to the U.S. in a metaphorical way, and I think that, yeah, I hope to have taken a progressive kind of a attitude about life, about my family, about the society that I live in, and hopefully make changes with our music. I think that a lot of people are conscious who listen to our music and can relate. And I hope music provokes catharsis. I think that's what certainly our music is about. You asked me about the song that I wrote before, and I think it's about figuring myself out, and hopefully for our audience as well. It's about a dangerous woman and being perceived as a danger because we think, because we have opinions, because we fight for the ideals that we have.
Mm-hmm. As the current U.S. president put it, a nasty woman, when he called Hillary Clinton that.
Yeah. I guess we are perceived as that.
Yeah.
And yet when a man has opinions and can touch a woman's in public, I guess he's not nasty.
He's not a nasty man. Well, he is in all of them. Anyway, but at what point in your career did you know that you wanted to say these things through music?
I think I was always quite angry with racism and segregation. It really made me very angry, but I didn't know what to do about it. And I guess music has helped me figure that out. Let's see, how old was I when I knew? I think that
Well, not even just how old.
when I started,
Right from the beginning. That's what I'm wondering. Was it all? Were you ever just singing pop hits and then decided that no, I want to use my voice for something greater, or was it always part of your music?
Yes, I did sing pop hits, but I never really thought I would end up doing that, I guess. I just loved it because musically it expressed, you know, the voice in a beautiful way, and I always aspired to sing harder and harder things. But I felt like it that's why I wasn't very attracted to music, and I kind of followed around the Grateful Dead and stopped doing music at that point. And then I think identity becomes more important to me, and telling another version of a story that I felt wasn't being told enough.
If you're just tuning in, by the way, I'm speaking with Lila Downs a little bit about her new record, her performance in Toronto, and just about her life in music. You said something interesting earlier when you said that, you know, music can provoke catharsis. Ultimately, as someone who sang very progressive music and music that inspires action and music that's meant, I'm sure, to inspire activism, what though can music actually do? I've had conversations with artists on the show before, and I'm not a cynical person, but there's sometimes they've communicated to me that, like, hey, I've spent my entire life trying to sing songs to make people move and make people do things, and I wonder whether music can actually do anything. I wondered if you have any perspective on that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, I have been at the point of suicide, and there have been a few songs that have saved my life. So, I mean, I guess if I had died, maybe I would have helped the world in some other way. But but I think that our music does help people, and it helps me. It helps me figure myself out. and it helps harmony.
In reading about your music, I've seen you talk about how part of your goals, and you talked a little bit about this, about the duality of being Mexican and being American, and how one of your goals has been to, and I love this, you said this years ago, to the idea of bringing down walls between those two nations, bringing down walls between those two cultures, which is ironic now because the current U.S. president campaigned on the idea of building a literal wall.
Yeah.
In between Mexico and America. You mentioned you were in Mexico when you found out that Donald Trump had won the election. Do you remember exactly where you were?
Yeah, I'm in our house
in your home?
In Oaxaca, in our home. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, what went through your mind?
Well, like I said, a lot of anger, I think.
Yeah.
Our previous album it was called Bullets and Chocolate. We're going through a drug lord war in Mexico, and so violence is on our mind a lot. And I think the easiest thing for me would be, of course, I can go buy a gun. I can get a rifle, or I can get any kind of arm if I want. And I think a lot of us are feeling that right now. So it's curious. In the media, especially, people have said, "Oh, what happened to you, Lila Downs? You were our warrior out there, and your previous album, you were like, okay, let's go get our rifle and go to the war."
Yeah.
And now you're singing ballads. What's this about? Tamed out. And I think that you are confronted at one point when all this anger, when all this hate is being instigated and instilled and planted, and it starts to blossom in different places of the U.S. and different places of Mexico. I've seen it against North Americans. And you go, okay, is that what I want personally? Okay, that's what everybody else wants. Do I want that? Mm. I don't think so. I think I can rise above that. I think I can be loving in spite of hate and anger, because love is larger. Love is great. And so that's why it's about a broken heart, and it's about love. It takes, there's people who will go through their lives and never get that perspective, who will be stuck on, who will be stuck on the bullets, who will be stuck on the weapons. For I think you're seeing that today, especially, people who think that's the only way to enact change. It takes a great perspective to realize that it's truly with the heart that you can enact change. What advice do you have for young artists who may be listening to this right now? Well, I think art is that magical substance that, if you happen to be a part of this, you can survive and you can make a difference. I really do think that in a profound way. I think there are a lot of things about music we don't understand scientifically yet, but we intuit them. And I think that's native vision. Native vision is about tuning into those things we don't quite understand that are like magic, and using them to the benefit of our society and of our community. And community vision is the cell that will make change come forth in these troubled times.
Before I let you go, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you.
Likewise.
I've really enjoyed this. We're going to go out on a song, and I wanted you to pick it. We do this sometimes. We ask the artist to pick the song. Is there a song in this new album for people who are listening to this right now, who are about to be introduced to your music, who maybe haven't heard you up until now, that you'd like to be a gateway to what you do? Which one you'd like them to hear?
Yeah, I think there's a song called La Mentira, which means the lie. And it's a classic standard that Luis Miguel did and everybody has done in Latin America. And it happens to be written by a paisano of mine from the state of Oaxaca, a songwriter from the 50s. Since this album is very inspired on the dances of the salons. Salons is what we call them in Mexico, but they're really dance halls that are old-fashioned, kind of in the 40s and 50s. The women would dress very formally and dance danzón and bolero. And the song says, Yo resulta que no soy de la estatura de tu vida. Now I am not of your stature. I am not as high as you are. Y al soñar otros amores se te olvida. And as you are dreaming of other loves, you are forgetting that there is a promise between you and I. Por mi parte, te devuelvo tu promesa de adorarme, and I will tell you that I will give back your promise of loving me. This country, I will give back your promise, because this promise that we made has nothing to do with God.
Lila Downs, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.